All right, Kelsey, well, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So this is fun because we just wrapped talking on your podcast for like an hour where you were basically interviewing me and now I get to interview you. So I feel like our conversation is just organic and has been rocking and rolling. So as you listen to the episode, if you're feeling a little FOMO and you're feeling a little left out, I'm going to say you should head over to Kelsey's podcast. Make sure that you go over to Mama Has Goals and you listen to the episode because we're just going to continue the conversation here. And I don't want you to feel left out. So come join the party. You know what I mean?
Yes, so good.
All right, we're going to dive right in. So, you went through something a couple years back that was pretty traumatic, I'm sure, and it ended you up, wound up, words are hard, in the hospital having surgery, which was pretty unexpected. And when you woke up from that surgery, I've heard you say many times before that you started to just really question yourself, what you were doing, the meaning of life, fulfillment, your kids, your goals. And my understanding now, 30,000 foot view, is that is most likely where Mama Has Goals really came from. So take us back for just a second. What had happened? How'd you end up in the hospital? And what was this profound kind of question that you woke up to?
Yeah. So had complications with delivery of my first son. And at that point, life was moving and grooving. I was hitting really my goal in my job. Had checked all the boxes, beautiful home. My husband and I are co-partners on a 30-acre vineyard in Napa. We have a great marriage. He's an amazing person. I had this baby that I was just given birth to, all the things that I had ever dreamed and wished for. And I then realized I had complications. And what's different about my story with that is I didn't realize I had complications until 10 months later.
10
So my
months
baby was
after your baby.
10 months after my baby was born. So
Wow.
I didn't have like really strong symptoms, didn't have a lot of pain, but knew something was wrong, but everything else was great. So I didn't focus on that and just kind of went through the motions. About 10 months in, I was like, things are still kind of weird. Ended up needing surgery to repair all different parts of me right after my son was a year old. Then from that, went straight back into normal life, as I've heard you have similar experiences. And so 2 weeks later, I'm working at 2:30 in the morning in my job, and all of a sudden, I'm like, "Gosh, I'm just, like, feeling off. I need to go to bed." I go lay down and still feeling off, get up and realize I am profusely bleeding everywhere. So I wake up my husband and I'm like, we have to go to the emergency room. So I call my friend that's an ER nurse and she's like, yeah, you should probably go to the ER. So I go in. This was my first lesson in advocating for yourself because the entire experience was not great. And long story short, I end up in an emergency surgery after passing out from blood loss. My husband has to get the doctor. I'm on top of the nurse. And for me, it really wasn't that traumatic. For my husband, I think it probably still is something that he is like, wow, that was an experience. But when I woke up after the surgery and everything kind of hits me, I'm sitting there because prior to that, I'm texting my boss, "Hey, I'm not going to be in my meetings tomorrow. I'm in the hospital, but everything's fine." Just everything was fine in my head, and it was still on paper in many ways. But what I woke up and realized was if I have just kept pushing, if I just keep pushing and I don't honor what I need to honor, and I don't think about things, where's that going to put me in 20, 30, 40 years? I'm fairly young. I sat with this question. If I hadn't made it through that, what story would I have left behind? And not
Mm,
that I really care what other people think, but what my son would know of me. What would he know as mom? What did mom care about? What was mom passionate about? What did she want to do with her life? Because I was only, when this happened, 28 years old. So what was I going to leave behind? And I had no idea. So what that looked like was just me getting really busy figuring out what were my goals. And that
yeah.
is where the goals came from. Exactly.
Are you a recovering perfectionist, people pleaser, control freak type A personality, like some people in the room? Were you sort of always that like highly motivated, driven person?
Yes and no. I hear some people talk. So I didn't grow up doing traditional athletics. I grew up dancing. And so when I hear people talk about this, they've typically been in previous like traditional traditional athletics. So I don't resonate the same way with some of that. I have always tried to push the envelope and find different things. And I had a season in high school where I struggled a lot, I always say, with barely making it through high school and also being in all honors classes and captain of the dance team, right? So I always had this very clear teeter-totter. I was
Yeah.
either out making debatable decisions or I was top of the perfectionist over there. Where when I've heard other people talk about it, they're kind of only on the other side. And I definitely flirted with the other side at times too.
Yeah.
Because I had this wanting to find a different part of me. And I now that I'm in the entrepreneur space, I hear so much of that, of wanting to fit in, find your people in the space. So yes, I'm very controlling. Also hear that coming from like the Enneagram 8. I've heard Tracy O'Malley talk about this in a way that I really resonate with, is when you don't see someone else grabbing the baton, you're like, okay, well, someone's got to, so I'm going to. And that is
Hmm.
very much, I think, my traditional background of like, this feels like chaos, so I'm going to create control.
Yeah. Yeah. Ugh, talk about the group projects back in school when they'd put you in a group project with like 4 kids and you're like, okay, I'm going to do the whole thing. That was
Yeah.
me. I'm like, I'm going to do the whole
Yeah.
thing because I don't want to get a bad grade because of you, or like it be turned in late because of you. Like, let
Yeah.
me just do it, you know?
Yeah.
So interesting. So often I feel this sort of, and I don't want to say it in a negative way, but that perfectionist tendency, the highly motivated and driven control freak type of thing, is a lot of the entrepreneurs. And it is.
Hmm.
And when you get into entrepreneurship, you kind of have to have that blood. You have to have that DNA because you don't have a boss. You don't have someone telling you what to do every day. I know for me, when I transitioned into full-time entrepreneurship, one of the most difficult things that no one ever asks me was like my day. All of our new
Yeah.
entrepreneurs that I work with, they're like, what do I do with my hands? You know, like you wake up every day and you're like, this is amazing. And then you're like, well, I didn't do anything today. I'm not productive today. You are in a very different space. You are co-running a vineyard. You are a mom of now 2 adorable little nuggets, and you're running a business that houses hundreds and hundreds of women and energies and personalities and challenges and goals. I would love to know how you're actually getting it all done. Like, what is the secret? Do you have a magic pill? Tell me everything.
No, no one has a
What?
magic pill, but no magic pill. So I often, when I started my business, I said, I'm so grateful that I decided to do this after having kids. And now being in it for a little bit, I definitely see both sides. But for me, it allowed me to approach it in a way that I had only a select amount of time, where I know, going back to that controlling kind of type A, all in, if you start there, it's more of this, whoa, I have to transition, right? Where I started this version of that after having kids. Now, prior to that, like I said, I was working at 2:30 in the morning for my job when I went to the ER. So I still was spending that time somewhere else prior. You're just looking at it differently. So for me, I measure everything in the question of, what does success look like? And a lot of that came from that experience, to say, what am I doing this for? Why do I want to do this? And I think it has to be a continual question, because you will constantly find yourself checking the boxes in whatever you're doing and then coming back to the why and the success and what that looks like. And so every day I try to say, okay, what does success look like? And for me, I measure it in buckets, because I do have buckets. I can't just say success as a whole. So it's personal, professional, and a family is me. Family is so important. I don't want to do anything if my family's going to suffer, more than saying, hey, they might eat dinner without me a night or two. That happens. But if they're going to suffer, there's no point in me building anything. So allowing myself to find success in each day there. Also personally, what am I doing for myself? And then what am I doing professionally? When I started this business, I was still working well over full time. So I had to find that balance and what that looked like. And you just have to choose your own measure of success and your own balance. I hear people in the mompreneur space all the time say balance doesn't exist. And I actually don't agree with that. I think
Mm.
that you define your balance, because if you say balance doesn't exist, then you're measuring your balance to someone else's. Where if you say balance does exist for me, but I'm creating what balance means to me and what my standard is, I'm in charge of what does balance mean. Who says what balance is but me?
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a visual right now of a a seesaw. I'm like, what are those things called?
Yeah.
Of a seesaw. And I guess the question remains, is balance only when the two sides of the saw are equal, or could balance happen when they're uneven, but nobody's feet are touching the ground, right? Because I've always said I don't believe in balance. I believe it's a dance, right? There's a rhythm,
Yeah.
and it's like there's different seasons. There's a push and a pull. There's a dark and a light. There's a yin and a yang, and that's a universal law. And so I'm like, well, when you give here, you're going to take from there. And so that is an interesting thing to think about when you're considering that you write the definition of the word balance. And if you just change the definition of balance or success, then you can absolutely hit that pinnacle moment of it. So I like it.
Yeah. And I think about it in time frames, right? So it's not that necessarily one side's higher and you're saying, "Oh no, I am in balance," when it's not straight like a seesaw and it's balanced. It's saying, "Well, when are you taking the picture of the seesaw? When are you looking at the balance and saying that?" Because today I am busy. Today I'm not spending the same equal amount of time with my kids as that I am working. But if I'm measuring my week, or I'm measuring my full 24 hours, or I'm measuring my month or my 2-week periods, then I can measure my balance there that it is equal. But
Mm,
no, in that one day, it probably isn't. It probably isn't balanced in that one 24-hour period of time.
so good. When you had reached these goals, as you said, this is like you wake up from surgery and you're like, whoa, I've done all these things, the white picket fence, all the things are great, right? At that point, what was the next goal? Like you're working 2:30 in the morning. I don't know what your corporate job was before, but like, were you
Mm.
putting out fires? Were you like doing surgery? I mean, why the hell are you working at 2:30 in the morning?
Mainly just because that was when I like to work.
Okay.
A lot of my work was spreadsheets and pulling data and organizing data and building systems. I worked in customer segmentation and marketing strategy. So I would be in meetings during the day, and then I had to go actually do the work when I wasn't in meetings
Sure.
and come back to being able to do that. So that's what that looked like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was the goal at that point? Like pre-surgery, what was the goal? Had you reached it?
Oh, pretty much. I
Yeah.
mean, I basically had one more tier in my industry that I could move up to. Again, I was pretty young, so it was kind of like, okay, in the next 5 to 10 years, hitting that, and that was really the realization. It was like I can work really hard for 10 years or less, 5 years, and hit the very top possibility of my industry and grow my family, and that was the goal.
Yeah.
And keep our other family businesses afloat too.
Yeah. So at what point, what was the gap between you have this sort of come to goals moment, if you will, where you wake up post surgery and you start questioning, and then you jump into entrepreneurship full time? Was there a period of like it was a side hustle? Did you know immediately you were going to quit your job? Did you get out of surgery and call your boss? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah, not at all. I sat and was like, "Okay, I love my job in so many ways and just not feeling fulfilled." And that was January 2020. So the universe gave me and many others a period of time to be like, "Okay, what am I doing with my life?" I had to bring my kids home. My At that point I only had one, so I had to bring my son home and got to experience working at home with my son. And I was spent so much time scrolling Instagram. I always say, there's so much good that's on Instagram. You are one of those people, and found random things that started getting my curiosity going. I've just, what is this online business world? I always joke, I have a business degree. We have businesses. I've worked in business. I had no idea that half of this world really existed. And it was actually a mutual friend of ours, which is not how we know each other, but very funny that my background in Excel, Miss Excel, Kat Norton, brought me to this world by me sending her a DM being like, "How did you get started doing this?"
No
And she's
way.
just, oh yeah, Kat is like the whole beginning of this because
I
I
did not
followed
know
her for
that.
my Excel business, or my Excel version of my life, not a business, but my job, and sent her a message, was like, "Wow, how did you get started doing this? What are you doing?" And had kind of at this point this idea of something I wanted to create. And that was, so me exploring the business world and sending Kat a random message, and her just being a super nice, kind human and being like, "Hey, let's chat." And then this other side of me unpacking my life and looking for resources and tools to organize my home, work on my mindset. When I had this realization that I had a different goal, I knew I had to work on me, my house, my schedule, my structure. So that year, I had created what I felt like was a really good system. And I was like, gosh, I want to help other moms do this. I want to help other people do what we've been able to do so far.
Yeah.
And at then talking to Kat, I started having these worlds kind of come together that I didn't expect to. And it started after I had my second son. I woke up one night, was talking to my husband. I was like, I think I'm going to create an ebook and just put together like my schedule and check boxes for people to be able to, do what they want with it. No plan to leave my job. I was just like, it'll be fun. I'll just create a little ebook. Created that in about 48 hours with my 2-week-old on top of my chest and my laptop on my lap. And then I looked over at him and I was like, well, what happens when they're done? Like, what are they going to do when they're done with the ebook? And how are they going to get help? Where do I send them to? And I was like, do I start a Facebook group? I don't want to manage a Facebook group. And at this point, I was spending so much time on my phone. I had a 2-year-old and a 2-week-old. So the last 2.5 years of my life, I'd had a baby on top of me for what felt like a lot of it. And I was like, it needs to be an app. Like they need to be able to use one hand because they only have one hand, and they need to be able to click around and have positive content that's going to help them grow and accomplish their goals while they have one hand and a baby on top of them. And that's where it started. And so I went back to work full time with 2 kids and figured out how to launch an app the evening nights.
Unreal. The fact that you went straight to something like an app too, which is, there's a lot of barrier to entry versus, it's funny to hear you say, like, I didn't want to manage a Facebook group. I'm like, that over building an app? Like, are you kidding me? Managing a Facebook group is so easy. It's been around for 20 years. All you have to do is pop it up and show your face every now and then. It's just incredible that you were like, okay, I'm going to go do this thing. Did you have fear or resistance around like, I don't know how, or it's going to cost a lot of money, or who's going to join? Or was it that kind of like, I call it dumb confidence, but the naivety of like, just like, and here we go.
A mix of the two,
Yeah.
because I did have this naive, like, whatever, I can do it. Other people have done it. And then I did also have this other part where I was like, okay, if it fails, it fails.
Yeah.
And who cares? Like, I tried. I'm going to go after it and we're going to see what's going to happen. And then I had this added layer where we didn't have like all these funds to start an app and I didn't have all this time. So I had to figure out how can I do it, which I actually think has given me a lot of success since high school and beyond, to say you only have an infinite amount of time, energy, and money. So how can you make it work in those boundaries?
Yeah.
And that was a blessing.
Yeah. That like resilience, resistance, and grittiness. Anytime I have a client come through who's gritty, and they just like figure it out, I'm like, you're going places. It just, there's something to be said for Google University.
Yeah.
Like too many people are afraid to use it. And it's like, it's a free resource. YouTube University, Google University, get on it. Like, get on it. So let's go to the app for a second, because I know our listeners are lots of business owners and they're foaming at the mouth because I feel like everybody wants a membership and everybody wants an app because it feels like that's the ultimate in business.
Yeah.
They're not easy to do though. What did the process of building the app actually look like? How much did it cost? If you're willing to tell us that, like just take us through the steps.
Yeah. So I will say I don't have 100% fully custom app. I use different software pieced together to be able to get the experience that I want. A fully custom app can range, it really is all over the place. But from the quotes that I've received, the bare minimum is probably going to be 15,000 and go up to 2 million, depending on
2 million?
depending on what your project scope is and what you're trying to do. It really just depends, right?
Yeah.
So if you're looking for just like a community for your clients and your group coaching, something like that, it's not going to cost you 2 million. But if you're looking to, play with TikTok and Meta and start a social media platform, yeah, it's probably there's so many features and so many layers to your scope. And so taking that back, to be able to get a full custom project team to even scope your project, you're looking at a bare minimum of probably $300 up to probably $2,500 to be able to just get a clear understanding, like, what's this going to cost me with all the bells and whistles and features. So know that if you're going fully custom, I didn't have that budget. So I said, okay, how can I create an app with what I'm able to do? And I did a lot of research of just figuring out what can I make happen. have also learned things that I would maybe do differently and that I would maybe build differently now knowing what's available. So I'll give you a little bit of what I did and what I would do if you're just listening and want to start an app. And so first and foremost, there's something called a PWA. It's a progressive web app, which allows you to basically turn any website into an application. And there are some platforms that even just let you do this. You'll give you a link and then you just like save that link onto your phone and you can open it up, and you can do this on desktop too. For someone that has a super small budget, that is the best way to go because you don't even have to create anything new. You just get to be able to give access to your platform through a phone application, and that works really well. Now, the other side of it is a lot of platforms that coaches use have an app, and you just have to get over it not being your brand when you click on it. But so many coaches I talk to don't even know that that's an option. So, like, if you're using Kajabi, it's like so many of these listeners are, like, Kajabi has an app that you can send your clients to and they can use. But yes, they're downloading Kajabi's app. They're not downloading Jessica DeRose Glazier's app or Digital Business Evolution. So take that into consideration as well. What I ended up doing was utilizing a plugin that sits on top of my website. And I do have to code parts of it different for the app than the website, but a lot of it lays over. I don't have a coding background. I have some software marketing background, so I could play with it a little bit, but that sits on top of my website. I use a community plugin there. And then I have what are called web fallback pages that I also use instead of all native app pages. So a native app, it allows you to have things a little bit faster, a little bit better functionality on your app. But you can also design a web fallback page to be really functional on the app if that's your goal. So utilizing some functionality that's native app design, using some functionality that's web design that's built within that, utilizing different softwares that are paired on top of that. So I have some pages that are just web pages that I've designed in Showit and WordPress. I have other communities that I use within that. I use different resources that I link out to. So at this point, we have a resource page where we're utilizing different versions of like blog pages and native WordPress functionality. We have a community section that uses all sorts of different groups. We have a calendar system that's, again, a different version of the software that goes into there, and it's all linked together. Some of that is, special, so I won't leave all the secrets here, but basically you can use customization and you can use someone else's software to create what you want and then put your own flavor on it. So I do a mixture of the two, and it gave me this kind of, I would say, medium affordability where, because I didn't know anyone else doing it, I spent a lot of money trying to figure it out on my own and a lot of time. I could definitely do it way faster and cheaper the second time around. And I would say if you're not doing a progressive web app and you're going to put things together, expect to spend anywhere from $5,000 up to $20,000 in your first year. And then there's expenses to be in the app store. If you're going to sell, you have to give back Apple 30% of everything that you sell through your app. There's lots of things to learn and know. It is an expense, and I think you just have to think about, is it the right thing for your brand? But PWAs are a great way to go if you're looking to just get something on someone's phone.
Do you have monthly overhead just to keep the app alive?
I do. Most of it I do myself, so I don't have like a on payroll developer, but I typically have to have a developer come in every couple months to help with something. And I have one support person that kind of just looks for like server errors and bugs that are going on. So I pay for that monthly. And then I have software fees that I pay as well.
Yeah. Unreal. Okay. So you decide you're going to go for an app because mom's got one hand, quick and dirty, give me the information. You want to get them the help that they need. At that point, had you had like hundreds of women getting your ebook where you're like, I'm sitting on something here? Or were you just still like, I think this is a good idea. Let me just do it.
You're going to be like, of course. I didn't even release the ebook. So I the ebook never even saw the world because I was like, what happens after this? Like, having a marketing background and customer segmentation, like a lot of what I did was build customer journeys, right? That was my formal background. So the good in that is I think about the big picture. The bad in that is I wouldn't get started because I just couldn't put the whole big picture together. So the ebook never saw the light of day. It has made parts of it are live in the app, and I will eventually release the whole thing again. But started really just coming back to building an Instagram community to start. And no, I didn't have a bunch of people knocking down the door for the app. And I'm sure my husband and other people would be like, so you had little proof of concept. So really where the proof of concept came is as I grew this Instagram community, I would ask people. I did ask a lot of people. I did a survey, I did forums with a lot of moms I knew, people to see like, okay, is this something I should pursue? Would people see value in this? But I think there is this balance in entrepreneurship of doing market research and looking for your clientele and also just following like a need that you know is there.
Yeah.
And you have to find that balance. And then that brought me to doing a launch event and seeing how many people showed up for that.
How many people showed up?
We sold 100 tickets. We had a little bit less than that live. And that was the launch event of the app. And it was definitely, I joke because my mom and my husband were like, you didn't even talk about the app from stage. It was really selling this concept of the community and the vision, less about the app itself. And the app has evolved so much since that. That was just over a year ago. It was April 2022 that I had that launch event. And it was really this, I got off stage and was like, okay, wait, I think I just like changed my life and like what we're doing now, because this was
Wow.
a whole, and I was still full-time employed at that point. So
Wow.
it was really, I had started talking to my employer that I knew that I wasn't going to be able to be there quite as much. And I wanted to pull back to part-time, at least for a period of time. That was really like okay, I think I've just changed my business and my life and started something. So
I can't believe you sold 100 tickets to a launch event. That's
yeah,
incredible. That's
yeah, it
incredible.
was fun. But
Yeah.
I will tell you that some of the biggest mistakes I've made in business is not utilizing the success I've had in the moment enough for the next steps.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so common. And just to kind of like break down, I've made this mistake so many times too. One of the more recent ones that I did was just a couple months ago. We did a masterclass. It was a paid masterclass, $97. And at the end of it, it was a whole bunch of, 60 people giving me virtual high fives. And then best thing I've ever been to, testimonials coming in, screenshots coming in, all the things coming in. And we were like, oops, we didn't offer them anything else at the end. Like we just like collected all the amazing things. They had great transformations, but it's like, yeah, the business opportunity there would be, to your point, customer journey of like, well, what are they going to need next? What's the type of support that they need next? And it's not about manipulative selling and like get them into the next offer. It's just like, no. Even if it was like a follow-up email sequence, like we just let them go.
Yeah.
And it has been years that we've been in business and we have a team of brilliant people. And we sort of just like, glad you liked it. Have a good day, and it's again, not about the sale. It's like, we did them a disservice to not follow back up or something. So that is such a common mistake that people make because you just get so laser focused on the one thing that you're doing. And it's like, let's just get through the event. We got 100 tickets. I'm going to do this thing from stage. And then it ends and you're like, oops, like I didn't do the next part really.
Yeah.
So I love that you brought that up. Something that I love this about you, but the word I'm looking for is admire. Something that I really admire about you is your network, your ability to network. You have all of these incredible people that are a part of your community, yes, but then you also have all of these experts and these professionals and these other men and women in your community that come in. You offer support through your app there. You have, Instagram, doing lives, podcast. How are you getting connected to these people who arguably are perceived as like hot shots in the industry, right? And like you just built this business quickly. Well, it's been a couple years, and yet you're connecting with people who've been in for over a decade, who've got massive followings, who again, on the external, people on pedestals. What are you doing? How are you getting into their orbit? Like, are you just knocking on DMs? Like, what is happening?
Well, I think I had this blessing of coming into the business in such a different way that I didn't know that these people were hot shots or on pedestals, and nothing against them. But I was just kind of like, hey, like, we're just going to be friends. Like, I think you're cool. I like what you're doing. And I didn't really realize that other people saw them that way at first. And then, yes, sending people DMs, but also you have to have a good heart to succeed in life, in my belief. And I try to always stand behind having a really solid intention with any conversation that I have. I would never go and try to talk to someone and try to get something out of it or
Yep.
have them do something for me. And I think because of that, people have seen that and they've showed up for me and they've allowed me to have those conversations and they've given me a seat at the table and been like, yeah, it doesn't seem like you want something from me. Something that I've heard from multiple people is always ask more questions than you share and you are talking. So anytime that I'm meeting someone, I want to ask questions about them, not how can they help me. I'm not asking business questions. I'm asking them about their life and getting to know them and seeing, is this someone that I'm going to even vibe with? Because honestly, even if they are on a pedestal, that pedestal may not be for me if I'm not meant to do life and business with them.
Yeah.
So I think being kind, like wanting to actually genuinely get to know someone, I don't think that you can ever put too much value on that. And yes, there is this little naive, it feels like this kind of naive Kelsey that's going and being like, well, we can just be friends, right? Like, why?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
respecting people's time. So there's being friends and just be understanding people are busy. And I think because I was busy outside of this and a mom and my time's important to me, you have to understand time is important to other people.
Yeah.
So be nice, lead with like true heart and intention, and then ask about them. And then occasionally, when that opportunity comes up, someone specifically that I absolutely love, she came up to me at an event and never asked her for anything, just had conversations with her. She has a huge following. And she just came up to me at an event. She's like, hey, whenever you know what you need from me, let me know. And
Mm.
I was like, wow, I could not be in a better position with that, but I have literally no idea what to ask, like, for support with. And so I just said that I was like, I have no idea right now, but I really appreciate that. And the time will come. So thank you for the offer. And so putting yourself in a place where you just want to be a good person and provide as much value to your business people, but also the people that you're learning from because
Yeah.
they're providing all this value to you and understanding that you do need to make investments sometimes. That doesn't mean paying to like make friends, but I value the people I learn from and I'm not going to try to get something for free from them, but also I'd love to truly just go on a walk and talk about like your dog and then I'm also going to pay you for you to help me launch my product.
Yeah. Well, you are absolutely living and breathing what you said, because I'll never forget the first time that we sort of got to hang out in a non-business event type space. And the exact thing that I said to Mike afterwards was, wow, she asks so many questions in a good way. It was in a
Yeah.
good way. It was like, wow, she has so many questions. Like, it's very rare for, I'm not Oprah, but it's very rare for me to just sit in a room with people where it's like, just how are you? And like, how about the dog? And why'd you move here? And what's going on? And like, you just genuinely were curious and asked so many questions that had nothing to do with business. And for me, it was a really nice breath of fresh air where it was like, oh man, we didn't talk about launching and she didn't ask me about strategy or can I pick your brain? And that's not to say that those things are not okay. So if you're listening to the episode and you're like, oh my God, I've done that before. Now I'm beating myself up. Don't beat yourself up. We've all done that. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's a time and a place, but you definitely that's exactly what I would say. There's like no underlying motive. You're just like a nice person and you're always there and you reach out and you ask how people are and you ask questions. And it just, yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. I'm like, what do you need? Because I'll give it to you when you need it. It's like, what do you need? Just let me know. I'll be there for you when that happens. Um, I think you had even offered to like drop something off or pick me up one time when you were in town and I like didn't have a car or I just had surgery, whatever it was. And it was like, wow, what a nice offer, And it was just, I hadn't taken you up on it, whatever it was, but it was just like, wow, I can't even believe you reached out about it. So I love that so much about you. And I do think it has helped get you to the place where you are in the sense of network, right? And being able to bring these incredible people onto your podcast and into your program and into your app and all of that. Going to the app for another second here. I'm so curious. Your app is free, correct?
It is.
Okay.
For users, it
For
is
the
free.
users. Yeah. What are some of the pros and cons when you were weighing out? Because I'm assuming you did. Do you want it to be a paid thing or a free thing? And then why'd you choose to go free?
Yeah, and the quickest summary possible is let's say I charge $20 a month for people to be a part of the app because that's probably a round number. Sure, I could do 5, I could do 40, but let's say 20 bucks a month. I where that needs to monetize to pay for itself and where I want my life and my time to be spent. I could either be building a system that was bringing people in at a larger scale each month into this community for a low ticket program or offer, or I could focus on having a truly really strong community, a really strong platform that was doing what it was intended for, to help people and help support them at any level, with the opportunity to, yes, buy other things in other ways and connect with other coaches and support people. And then I'm looking to make one large sale per quarter through a sponsor or a person that needs to get their brand in front of my people in a very aligned way. So the example I always give is, we're a mom platform. We have people that are trying to learn how to navigate things. And there is this one business that I think is super aligned. It's called the Green Light Card. And basically, they have this program where you can line up your kids' chores with their allowance, and it goes through a card that allows you to just create good financial habits for your kids. Now, my audience is perfect for them. And also, they are providing a benefit to my audience. It's not something that I'm just putting ads in front of them and they're just seeing, target ads about onesies. They're seeing a very aligned resource to a problem that they have. Now, that's a win-win situation to be able to say, hey, you have pockets, I have community and audience, you have a product that they can learn from. This now makes me have one, yes, you have to have more than one conversation, but one conversion rather than 3,000 for maybe the same monetary goal.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I'm a huge fan of the higher ticket, higher touch point. Then, not to say that the lower ticket is not good, but you're really using the app as a funnel, similarly to how we do with social media marketing or how we do with email marketing. So when you reverse engineer the intention, your app intention is obviously to build the community and the audience, right? Two different things, community and audience, but it's to build that community and audience so that you can continue to nurture them. You're providing them with that value. And then maybe there's a sale on the back end. Again, there's nothing manipulative about it. It's the way the business is run, and it's no different than social media or having an email platform. So when people offer free lead magnets, right, like an opt-in, it's the same thing. If your intention is to get more leads that you can potentially nurture and warm up, we want the item to be free. If you're looking to make a buck, then you would have the item to be paid. But understand, even if it is $20 a month or $97 for a masterclass, you're going to potentially drastically decrease the amount of conversion over something that would be free. So I love the idea that you have it for free. It's also more people on your platform to give you more feedback and more market research to see, like, what is the direction we want to go? What do people really want and need? And I love how you're using sponsors as well, where it's kind of like the Facebook marketplace of, paying for ad spend. I'm sorry, paying for, ad spend, where they're on the side of Facebook. And for you, it's like, cool, a company or a brand can pay to be on here. I also can sell the client a program. So like, you could potentially have money and then monetize your podcast. There's so many different ways that you can actually make money. So for the person listening who's like, I can't do a free app. Like, I need to make money. I've got bills to pay. It's like, well, so does Kelsey. Kelsey and David have bills to pay too, but it's like the money can come from other places. So I love how you're sort of thinking about it and really providing that one step of the customer journey, as you said, where it's ultimately the place that they're going to come in. And so many people can gain from it without ever purchasing if they decide not to purchase.
Yeah. And, I've had many moments where I've looked at, okay, am I building this for money now or money later? And that's a decision that you have to make in your business. And it's one that sometimes I've questioned there are different decisions I could have made for a faster return, but it didn't align at the end of the day with the vision, the mission, and how I want to spend my time. And so the monetization piece is part of that. Also, data is worth a lot. And the background that I have in customer segmentation, the app was very strategically designed to be able to provide customer insights, and not in a big brother weird way, but to be able to say, okay, if they're a part of this community in this subgroup in the app, I know that they're going to be interested in a different version of content. If they're absorbing this type of resource and information, they're going to be into this type of thing. And I think that people don't put enough value into how you can do that in your list. And even I just designed a free quiz, and so many of the quiz questions are just for that, for segmentation.
Yeah.
But it allows you to be able to truly give your audience what they want. And then again, coming back to, it doesn't feel salesy because you're giving them what they need and want rather than just throwing things at them. So you can do that on so many different platforms. You don't have to have your own app, but that was definitely part of the strategy, that there's value in that as well.
I love that you're talking about too, like the money now versus the money later, because with what you're building, an app, which potentially is a subscription model, which companies love, and you're collecting all the data, which companies love, you could sell it in the future if you wanted to. Is that one of the Mama Has Goals visions?
At this point, I don't know. It wasn't the intention at the beginning. And I think just when and if that opportunity comes, we will have to evaluate it. It definitely has been designed in the way that I have gone back and forth. Is this a Kelsey Smith thing, or is this Mama Has Goals? And I truly do see it going forward as I'm the founder, but this is a community that is much beyond me. And right now, I want to make sure the train stays on the tracks, but I don't always need to be the one that is the conductor. So being able to figure out that balance.
You're a smart chick, let me tell you. I love it. It's so cool to see. And you also, it's very new. Like you just went full-time in the business. It's crazy.
Yeah.
When did you officially leave your job?
So I put in notice about March of 2022, but I stayed on for a really long time. So I gave a very big transition period. So I gave notice in March. I went part-time in June, and I just stopped attending one meeting a week 2 months ago. So
What?
so now I do a like project based. They can still reach out to me if they need something, but about a month and a half ago I stopped that one meeting a week. So it was a
Wow.
really, really long transition period.
Wow. Do you miss it?
No. I
Okay.
just did.
I won't tell them.
I they know. They just reached out for me to me to do a project, and I took it, and I went back and said I don't want to do any more of these. So don't give me any more of these projects, please. There's certain things I'll do. There's execution you have to do in your business and the administrative stuff that you have to do. But I've basically decided if I can avoid doing that execution for something that's not mine, and I can stay on the strategy. I love talking strategy for other people's businesses,
Yeah.
but I don't want to execute someone else's business. So
Yeah.
I have to execute my own. Let me stay there.
What are some habits that have changed your life, or habits that have made it possible to be running multiple businesses and raising kids?
Yeah, and I do want to clarify, like, I'm not in the day-to-day operations of our other family businesses, so I don't want to give that conflicting view, but having multiple family businesses definitely gives a different environment for our family, right?
Sure.
So, but I'm not making decisions in those in the day-to-day. But in the day-to-day, some of the habits, they change. I'll be honest. We chose to take our kids out of childcare and live in an Airbnb for 5 months last year. And that had very little routine. We were having fun. We were spending time as a family. We were really absorbing and learning. I was still so new to this world. I was going to so many events. So the idea of habits and routine during that time wasn't aligned with the choices we were making. We were just having fun.
Yeah.
Coming back into January, coming back home, we implemented a couple different things, but we had ups and downs with childcare and daycare. So I always want to say, like, we roll with the punches a lot of the time. But that being said, I need to have prepped food in our house for success. And that doesn't mean like a giant, like fitness people that are
Yeah.
listening from your background, not like that per se, but having fruits and veggies and snacks for our kids, something that I know that we can be fed on the day to day, and it's quick to grab and I don't have to think about it. The mental space of motherhood and food and clothes takes so much away from you that if you can alleviate some of that in some way, it's great. Coming back to the beginning of our conversation of the wins in each bucket, decide what a win is for you. For me, going for a 15-minute walk as a family is a win for our family. Sitting down for dinner. Every dinner we try to ask, what are we grateful for, to our even 4 and 2-year-old. So that's a constant conversation at the dinner table, and they respond, and so don't think your kids are too young. They have the same conversations. And those are wins to us. So measuring our wins are a habit, and measure by having them. Just saying, like, today was a win because of this. Making sure we have family time. We love our friends and family outside of this world. And so making time for them is important to us. I definitely could have better habits around my health. That's something I would like to work on, but going for walks. So really plugging into those buckets are my habits. Some days that looks like complete chaos, and some
Yeah.
days I'm awake at 5:30 and I'm going through a very systematic process that feels better. I would not advocate to have the best morning routine at this
Yeah.
point in time.
Yeah.
So
I love the permission to do it messy. I love the permission for it to be chaotic. I love the permission for like one day could be rock star, hit the nail on the head, check all the boxes. And the next day is just like, well, that's not really, but maybe my definition of success or of a win today has changed. So I just love this idea. And for me, as I've gotten older, that's sort of how my mindset has been now around things like morning routine, where I joke all the time, but it's like 5 years ago when I was on a podcast and someone would ask me my morning routine, I had it down to the minute. And it was like,
yeah.
and if you're not doing these 7 things in this exact order for this many minutes, then it's going to be a bad day or you're failing or whatever. And now I'm like, what? Just wake up and take what I need today. You know, they're same thing.
Yeah.
There are buckets of things. So it's hard to believe, but we are coming up on time here. And so before we get into a couple rapid fire questions, where can people find you, follow you? What do you have for us? How can they test the app out? How can they download the app? Give us everything.
Yeah, if you love this conversation, come hang out with us at the Mama Has Goals podcast. Definitely listen to the other part of this conversation with Jessica. And then Mama Has Goals, MOMMA on every platform. Instagram is where I'm most active. You can catch me on Threads now. And you can also download the app from any app store, MOMMA, Has Goals. Go download it, give it a check out.
I love it. And we'll link it in the show notes. Okay. You ready for some rapid fires?
Yep.
All right. Let's start with an easy one. Favorite movie?
Oh gosh. My go-tos are Sweet Home Alabama and Finding Nemo.
Oh,
Personality, core.
solid. I love it. I love it. What is something that people get wrong about you?
Ooh. A lot of things, but I think that that I'm intense. I get that a lot, and I don't feel like I'm not intense. And also just a lot of opinions about like my background and upbringing that are usually false.
I love it. What is something that you wish people asked you, but they don't?
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I don't know. The first thing that comes to my mind is like a question that I would love to answer is just like something about like what is something fun that you recently did with the kids?
Mm.
Like, yeah,
What is something fun you recently did with the kids?
ask me those questions. Let's see. Recently, we went to a new playground that was super fun for the kids, and we had a lot of fun there. We also took the kids to Disneyland for the first time on like a bigger spectrum,
Oh,
and
that's
that was
fun.
also really fun.
That's really fun. Our $50,000 question. If I were to cut you a check for $50,000 and give it to you tomorrow, you had to use it on or in the business. You could split it up or do one lump sum. How would you invest it?
Very technical. I would change our server base for the platform. Currently, there's a transition cost for that I'm trying to decide if I want it to do. And beyond that, I would probably use some of it for ad spend because that is a goal that we have coming up as well. And then splitting it up from there, I have a really fun vision for a live event that I want to do in 2024, but it's going to be a very large undertaking. And so it would go to that.
Ooh, I'm excited for that. I'm excited to watch that all go down. All right, our final question. We named the company Digital Business Evolution, as we talked about on your podcast, because I believe that you're always evolving and growing, and your business is a reflection of that evolution that happens naturally. So what is your next personal or business evolution?
Mm. Really growth and scaling. We've been building so much foundation and making sure that we have the path planned and what that looks like. The biggest next is putting that all into play and not getting distracted with a new route and really seeing that one through and bringing on team members.
I love it. I'm so excited to watch it all unfold. Kelsey, I'm so grateful for you. Thank you so much for being here and for everything that you do in the community. As always, if you love this episode, which I know you did, especially all the app chat, that was super cool to listen to. Take a screenshot of this episode, share it out on social media, tag Kelsey at Mama Has Goals, tag me at I am Jessica DeRose. Let us know what some of your takeaways were and go run to check out the app. One last question. Do you have to be a mom to be on the app?
Absolutely not. We would love for
Okay.
you to sit with the word mama in some way, whether that is to your dog or a family member. If you are providing those types of things to someone or something, or you aspire to be one, we'd love to have you.
I love it. Well, you heard it here. Go check out the app. We'll link it in the show notes. Kels, thank you so much for being here, love.
Thank you.